Good morning, everyone. We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, via YouTube streaming, and also via Skype online. Each one of you is welcomed to this live streaming. Going within. Surrender and understanding. In the process of going within, surrender is an important and essential tool. But you need to know what surrender is really. Surrender is an understanding. Surrender is not something that you can do it. You can never do it. It is not doing. But you cannot prevent it from happening. You cannot manage anything for it to happen. Because whatever you do, your power about surrender is only negative. You can prevent it. You can prevent it. But you cannot do anything for it to happen. You cannot bring it. It is not something that you can do. It is not surrender, because in the process of doing, the doer is there. One who is surrendering is there. Surrender is a great understanding that I am not. It is an insight that ego does not exist. It is an understanding that I am not separate from whole. But the problem is you consider yourself separate from the other. And in that, many times whatever I say does not appeal to you, you react, you reject. This is because you consider yourself separate. There is a power, there is understanding that knows beyond our knowings. We are not aliens nor as strangers joined. We are bound to each other by a causeless force. This I say again and again. Your left hand and the right hand are in harmony with one another. Left hand never says, never feels inferiority complex, because you cannot do much with the left hand. You can do things with the right hand without the support of left, but you cannot do anything with the left hand without the support of the right. You have to remember, in the first place, you are not separate. Separation that you and I are separate is false. If you look at the house, you are sleeping in a separate room which seems to be separate from the other room. But in reality, both rooms are part of one existence, one whole existence. For the purpose of certain purpose, a separation is there. But we say this is my room, that is your room. So separation is always false. It is an understanding that you, being a guest, you need a certain amount of privacy, so you have a room by yourself. You have to remember that not for a single moment you can live, you can exist in separation from the existence. Tree cannot exist without its roots. If roots are uprooted from the earth, the tree cannot exist, it will disappear tomorrow. The tree cannot exist if no water is coming to its roots. The tree cannot exist if it cannot breathe. Tree is rooted in all the 5 elements, and Buddhists call these elements as skandha. The camera cannot be kept in front, as someone said. Try to bring as close as possible. Maybe another time I will try to see that it could be kept in front. The other day when I was speaking on Avalokita, when Buddha came to the transcendental vision, when he passed through all the stages, he passed through all the rungs of the ladder and came to the 7th. And from there he looked down. What did he see? He saw only 5 heaps with nothing substantial in them, just emptiness, shunyata. Tree cannot exist without these 5 elements, because these 5 elements are constantly pouring energy into the tree. The air, the water, the sun. The tree is combination of 5 elements. If the tree starts thinking, I am, then there is going to be misery for the tree. Certainly there is going to be misery for the tree. The tree in that situation will create hell for itself. Indeed, the tree is not foolish. It does not have the mind. They are there. Tomorrow they can disappear. They simply disappear in an unknown oblivion. An awakened one, the tree is below mind. The awakened one is beyond the mind. So he simply disappears from the known realm to the unknown, just as the drop of the water slips from a lotus leaf and merges into the lake, into the silent lake. They do not cling. In fact, there is no one to cling. Tree is constantly surrendered to the existence. I have heard there was a chieftain. That is known as Nawab. This terminology came into existence during the Mughal period. So they gave a certain amount of the area to be governed by a particular person, and he is known as Nawab. He was responsible for paying the tax to the government, and he will collect revenue and things like these. So he hired a person as Gulam, means that he hired. He has to obey the master, but he was unique. So the Nawab asked him, "How do you want me to keep you?" He said, what is my wish? The way you want to keep me, you keep. It is up to you. I am your servant. I have no wish of my own. Whatever you will give me to eat, I will eat. Wherever you want me to sleep, I will sleep. I am your servant. The tree is constantly surrendered to the tree. And what surrender means, I am not separate from the whole. It has not come, it does not have this stupid idea of ego. And so are the birds, so are the mountains, so are the stars. It is only man who has turned this great opportunity of being conscious into being self-conscious. Man has consciousness. That is the most important tool to live into the world. If consciousness grows, it can bring you greatest bliss possible. But if something goes wrong and consciousness turns sour, and then it creates hell for you, misery for you. Both alternatives are available to you. You can make your life bliss, or you can make your life a hell. The two options that ego does not exist. You are not separate from the whole. Just as the tree is affected by the water that nourishes its roots, the sun that helps it to grow, the moon, the energy of the moon, the sun, the stars, everything helps the tree to grow. Nobody can exist in separation from the whole. Ego thinks that I am separate from the whole. In reality, we, we are interdependent on one another. Interdependent. We are not independent. Interdependent is the most beautiful word. There are certain things which you are capable, certain things I am capable of, but there should be no way to cheat one another. The left hand never takes control of the right hand. It supports the other in order to be more, to have more strength, more energy. If the two hands are in separation from one another, there will be less energy. The two hands, 2 feet, work in harmony with one another. That is how God created the existence man. But we think how to harm the other, how to take advantage of this person, how much we can extract monetary resources out of this person. But remember, a wise will not react. A man of awakening will not react. Whatever you have done is your doing and you are responsible for it. You have to pay the price for it. This is destined. He will not simply say anything to it. If you say that I will surrender, now I am going to surrender, but you think you are, it is erroneous. Surrender is not a doing, it is a happening. It is an understanding that I am not separate from the whole. Looking into the very idea of separation, one day you find that you are not separate. Then how can you surrender? You are dependent on the sun, the moon, the stars, the earth, the wind, the water and everything. How can you surrender? There has never been anybody to surrender. Surrender is not there at all, never found anywhere. If you go into yourself, you will not find surrender anywhere. In that moment, there is surrender. When surrender is not found in that moment, it is there. You cannot do it. If you do it, it becomes false. Out of falsity, only false arise. If you are false, so whatever you do will be false and it will harm you. Not the awakened one, not the man of understanding. He is constantly marching ahead on its own journey. Maybe a temporary setbacks may come, and one falsity leads to another. The process continues, and so on and so forth. The fundamental falsity is ego, that the idea that I am separate. As far as you are concerned, your surrender is goal oriented. It is always out of ego. It is always ready to grab. It is certainly and always searching for more and more and more. It lives in more. If you have money, it wants to have more. If you have a house, it wants to have a bigger house. The ego is constantly hungry. It lives in future and in the past. In the past, it lives as a hoarder. I have this and I have that. It gets a certain satisfaction in that. I have got something. Power, prestige, money. This gives a certain kind of a reality. It gives a notion that when I have these things, I must be there. And it lives in the future with the idea of more. It lives in memory. It lives in desire. What is a goal? It is said at the end of when the old year is coming to an end and we are at the threshold of the new, it is said, what is your resolution for the new year? It is all resolutions are goal oriented. A desire, I have to reach there. I have to be that. I have to attain that. The ego does not and cannot live in the moment, because whatever is this very moment is real and ego is false. They never meet one another. The past is false because it is no more. Once it was, but when it was present, ego was not there. It existed once as present moment. Now it has been cremated, gone in the grave, and we live in the graveyards of the past. Everyone lives in the graveyard of the past. Once it was, but when it existed as past, it existed as present. I give you a cup of tea. You drink the tea in the moment of present. But when you describe the taste of it, the tea is no more there. The description will be a part of the past. People say that thank. Thank is a delayed response. The moment I do something for you, and you say thank, there is a time difference, a gap. You can never thank to someone in the moment when it is needed. So thanks is an understanding. But we are so much interested in words. If we do not thank, we say what you have to say. We teach the children the false manners that you must say thank to the other. Ego starts, once it has disappeared, is no longer existential. It starts grabbing it, accumulating it. It grabs and accumulates things. Ego is the graveyard, is the dumping ground. It collects corpses and dead bones. Or it lives in the future. And once again the future is not there, it is your imagination, it is your fantasy, it is your dream. Ego lives with that too, very easily. Falsities go together perfectly well, smoothly well. Bring anything existential which is happening in this very moment, ego disappears. That is why the emphasis of each master is being in the present, being here now. Here means it is a spatio where space and time has merged into one another. Here now. Just this moment, if you are intelligent, there is no need to think about what I am saying. You can simply see into it this very moment. Where is the ego? There is utter silence. There is no past. There is no future. Only this very moment exists. And this dog barking, this moment, and you are not. Let this moment be all. You are not. And in this moment there is immense silence. There is profound silence, both within and without. And then there is no need to surrender because you know you are not. There is a deep understanding, knowing that you are not. Surrender is. It is an understanding. It is not a question of surrendering to me or to anyone. It is not a question of surrendering to God. It is not a question of surrendering at all. Indeed, surrender is an understanding that I am not, I cannot exist in separation from the whole. Seeing I am not, I am nothingness, emptiness, surrender grows. The flower of surrender grows on the tree of emptiness. The flower, the fruits of surrender grows on the tree of emptiness, but it is not goal-oriented. Ego is goal-oriented. Ego hankers for the past. Ego hankers for the future. It can hanker even for the other life. It can hanker for heaven. It can hanker for nirvana, moksha, salvation. It does not matter what it hangs for, what it hankers for. Hankering is what is. Desiring is what it is. Projecting into the future is what it is. See it. Look into it. I am not saying think about it. I said look into it. If you think about it, in the very moment of thinking you will miss it. Thinking means you have gone into the past or future. You are swinging between the past and the future like the pendulum. The pendulum of the clock moves from the left to the right. Left is the past, right is the future. It pauses at the past, left and the right, and it never stops in the middle. Thinking again means past or future. Have a look into it. Avalokita, the Lord of Buddha. Look into it. The English word look comes from the same root as avalokita. Avlokan means to look into. Look into it. Do it right now. Do not say to yourself, okay, I will go home and do it. This very moment, The ego, the moment you say, when I go back home, then I will look into it, ego has entered into it, goal has come in, future has entered. Whenever time enters, the past and the future are time oriented. The present moment is so precise that you cannot capture. The pendulum passes through that moment of now when it is exactly 10. But how precise it is, not even for a fraction of a second. How can you capture it? And that is why it is attentiveness, it is awareness. Whenever time enters, you are falling into the falsity of separation. Let it be here, this very moment, and then suddenly you will see you are not going anywhere. You are not separate from the whole. You are not coming from anywhere. You have always been here. Here is the only time and the only space. Now is the only existence. In that now, there is surrender. When I talk about surrender, it is not goal oriented. I am not surrendering or asking you to surrender in order to win freedom. You are free. You have never been the opposite. You are free, but again, there is the same problem. You want to be free, but you do not understand that you can be free only when you are separate, only when you are free from yourself. There is no other freedom. When you think about freedom, you think if you will be there and free, you will not be there. There will be freedom. Freedom means freedom from the self, not freedom of the self, freedom from the self, your false entity. The moment the prison disappears, the prisoner also disappears. A person is known as prisoner as long as he is in the prison. You remove the prison, the prisoner is no more. You are not there. The moment you come out of the prison, you also are not. There is pure sky, pure space, and that pure space, that open vast sky is liberation, is freedom, is moksha, is nirvana. Try to understand that surrender is an understanding, an insight, rather something to achieve. I am not asking you to surrender to achieve this or that. Then you are using surrender as a means, as a goal, an end to itself. When I say surrender is goal, I am not saying surrender has to be achieved somewhere in the future. It is not a means. It is an end to itself. It's not that surrender brings freedom into you. Instead, surrender itself is the freedom. They are synonymous. They mean the same thing. You are looking at the same thing from different angles. It is neither real nor unreal. It is not surrender at all. It is not even unreal. I am watching it, but the problem is, it is always I who is watching. Therefore, each realization out of that watching becomes a reinforcement of ego. I feel tricked by my ego. Who is this I you are talking about? About who feels tricked by ego? It is ego itself coming from the back door. The ego is such that it can divide itself into fragments, into parts, and the moment it does so, the game starts. You are chaser. You are the chased. It is like a dog trying to catch hold of its tail and goes on jumping, and you look and you see the absurdity of it, but you see the dog cannot see it. The more it finds it is difficult, the more dog jumps and tries to catch hold of the tail, the more he becomes crazy, the more he jumps, and the faster and the bigger he takes the jump. And in the same proportion, the tail also jumps faster and bigger too. And the dog cannot conceive what is happening. He is such a great catcher of everything. And this ordinary tail, and he cannot catch hold of it. That is what is happening to you as a human being. It is I who is trying to catch, and who is the catcher? And the caught both see the ridiculousness of it, and in that seeing you will become free of it. There is not a thing to be done, not a single thing that you can do, because you are already that which you want to become. A seed is a flower already. Only then a rose plant is a rose plant. If it is not a rose plant, the rose will not grow on it. It is already a rose plant, but it has to go through the process for the rose to blossom. It is not a thing to be done, not a thing at all. I say because you are already that which you want to become. You are awakened. You are Buddhas. You have never been otherwise. Never been otherwise. Seeing is enough. And that is why it says, I am watching. And when you say I am watching, I has come into it. Watching, the I will be created again. because watching again is an act. There is effort involved. You are watching. Then who is watching? Relax. In relaxation, when there is nothing to be watched, nobody is there as a watcher. You are not divided into the duality of the subject and the object. One who is watching and one that is being watched. There arises a different quality that is known as witnessing. Witnessing is you are seeing the things happening. There is no one to watch and nothing to be watched. Watching it is not watching, it is just passive awareness. Passive. I say remember, it has nothing aggressive in it. Watching is very aggressive. Effort is needed. You need to be tensed, but be non-tense, relaxed. Just be there. In that very consciousness, when you are simply there, sitting and doing nothing, a spring comes and grass grows by itself. All you need to do, just sit silently and grass grows by itself. This is the entire Buddhist approach, that anything that you do will create and enhance the doer sense in you. Watching, thinking, surrendering, all will create the doer sense in you. Anything that you will do will become a trap for you. Nothing is needed to be done on your part. Just be and let the things happen on its own. Do not try to manage. Do not try to manipulate. Let the breeze pass. Let the sun rays come. Let life dance. Let death come and have its dance into you too. This is my meaning, my insight into surrender. This is my way of living into the world, but not letting the world into you. Whatever you do is your doing. I have nothing to do. I am simply surrendered, non-attached, not concerned with your actions. That is how you should be. Whatever you do to me, I am not responsible for it. You will have to pay the price for it one day. I am only responsible for my own understanding with which I deal with a particular situation or a particular person. Never disrespect. Never say anything against that person, because there is a law that governs everything. Whatever you sow, you reap. Whatever I sow, I reap. The flower plants that I grow into my yard will blossom, will bring the beauty and the fragrance. The air will be filled with the fragrance around. The moment this understanding comes, you are free. Nothing to be done. Accept this simple, ordinary life. Drop the doer. When I say drop the doer, do not become the dropper. Seeing into reality, it disappears. Then trees are more green, birds sing in richer tones, everything that is happening around you is precious. Ordinary pebbles become diamonds. Only this much for this morning, until we meet again on another inward journey. Take care and do have a pleasant day.